Did y'all see what just happened at the Senate hearing where RFK Jr. was testifying?
The witness will suspend. The committee will come to order. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room. Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be tolerated. Members of the audience are reminded disruptions will not be permitted while the committee can...
In case you couldn't understand what that peaceful protester who was basically tackled by a cop said, she said RFK kills people with AIDS. Another screamed at him about cuts to Medicaid. Altogether, 7 protesters were forcibly removed from the hearing and were charged with misdemeanor offenses such as crowding, obstructing, and incommoding. That's because there's a law that prohibits demonstrations inside congressional buildings. Now, we can talk in just a second about some of the absolutely deranged shit that RFK Jr. said in that hearing, but did you see the older gentleman who was standing up and speaking calmly? His name is Ben Cohen, but you might know him as the Ben from Ben and Jerry's. He was one of the 7 protesters arrested today. I mean, Ben is a real one, y'all. He has a long history of pro-human rights, pro-democracy, civil disobedience. He's got quite the rap sheet for doing things like protesting Homeland Security, burning replicas of the Bill of Rights in front of the Department of Justice, supporting freedom of the press, protesting our military policies, and today, protesting what is happening to the children of Gaza. I'm quoting Ben's Twitter here. He said, "I told Congress they're killing poor kids in Gaza by buying bombs, and they're paying for it by kicking poor kids off Medicaid in the U.S." Unfortunately, all of the protesters besides Cohen are likely going to face additional heavier charges of resisting arrest, and at least some of them also assaulting a police officer. Cohen is only facing the misdemeanor charges. I just want to remind folks that civil disobedience needs to be strategic. It needs to be planned. You need to be planning for maximum impact and press coverage of what you're doing. And it's really important that you don't assault officers and resist arrest and end up with upcharges. It was only a day ago that The Guardian reported that RFK Jr. had taken his grandchildren swimming in a creek known to be contaminated with raw sewage. RFK Jr., who has been known for years as somebody who spreads harmful disinformation about vaccines, who has repeatedly taken an anti-vax and anti-science stance and supports Trump's new Surgeon General pick, who is a wellness influencer. Today, in front of that Senate hearing that Ben and others were protesting, RFK Jr. was asked about his position on vaccines such as measles, chickenpox, and polio. And he said, "My opinions about vaccines are irrelevant. I don't think people should be taking advice, medical advice from me. I don't want to give advice." Bro, you've been confidently spouting you wrote a whole book confidently spouting your anti-vax opinions to the entire world. You've been doing it for decades. And now that you are the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, you don't want to give advice or have an opinion about vaccines. Earlier this morning in that hearing, he said he would probably vaccinate his kids against measles. That's weird because his kids are ages 24 to 40. So if he was going to give them their childhood measles vaccine series, he would have already done that. When he was pushed about whether he would vaccinate against polio or chickenpox, he declined to answer. Newsweek magazine asked Matthew Woodruff, an immunologist and professor at Emory University, about this, and he said that Kennedy's lack of more strongly endorsing factual scientific data is, quote, disingenuous and puts scientific officials and Americans at risk. Woodruff went on to say it's the waffling and unwillingness to put himself out there as an expert that is an attempt to avoid accountability. Kennedy has in the past made false statements such as none of the 72 vaccines given to children has ever been tested in a safety study pre-licensing. He also has promoted repeatedly the discredited, debunked theories of Andrew Wakefield claiming that vaccines cause autism. I have repeatedly said that it's very easy to write off RFK Jr. as kind of this bumbling brainworm idiot, but he's very, very dangerous. He's the Health and Human Services Secretary for the United States of America. But in 2024, his personal attorney petitioned the Food and Drug Administration to revoke approval for the polio vaccine. He had his grandkids swimming in raw sewage. He supports his friend and former campaign official, who is a wellness influencer, to be the Surgeon General of the United States. He promotes lies that autism is caused by toxins in the environment, and he wants to create an autism registry. He has repeatedly said that he wants to send people with mental health issues to work farms. I know that he seems like an utter clown, but he is incredibly dangerous. I mean, this is the definition of a kakistocracy, right? When the least qualified people are put in charge of incredibly powerful positions in the government. Yes, it's absurd. Yes, a lot of his behavior seems almost comical, but in actuality, it's terrifying. Anyway, getting back to the protest that happened at this hearing with RFK Jr. Ben Cohen, thank you. Thanks for being a real one. Thanks for drawing attention to what RFK is doing. Thanks for being willing to get up to good trouble and to commit civil disobedience. And again, I just want to reiterate for everybody at home who saw what Ben Cohen did or the other protesters did and was like, yes, we all need to stand up. We need to be willing to cause a ruckus. We need to be willing to not just be non-cooperative with this regime, but to actually be disruptive. Please understand that Ben Cohen is extremely wealthy and can afford a lawyer, can afford bail, can afford to be protected when he steps out and engages in these kinds of actions. He also very clearly knows how to act appropriately to not resist arrest and to not risk the police escalating charges against him. Please understand that civil disobedience is not spontaneous. These are carefully planned events, and they are done at personal risk. If you are willing to break the law, you need to understand all of the risks that carries for you as an individual, the group that you represent, and the people around you at the event. I'm not advocating for breaking the law, but I obviously understand that civil disobedience is an American tradition. It is an important way that we push back against government officials who are attempting to trample on our rights. And I don't want you to see what Ben did today and think, I'm going to go copy that. Because if you feel an impulsive desire to go commit civil disobedience, you should not be doing it. It is worth repeating, Rosa Parks did not decide one day spontaneously, I'm sick of Jim Crow and I'm going to start some shit on this bus. Nope, that was a planned event with lots of people, lots of framework, months of planning behind it. It was strategic, there was a purpose to it. Please don't let your passion for human rights, your concern about the state of this country, your desire to stand up and do what's right, end up with you in prison. It's really hard to advocate for the causes you care about if you are sitting in a jail cell. This regime is itching to take political prisoners. So as inspiring as what Ben and those other protesters did today, please understand all the layers of complexity when you watch that clip. And also please understand that RFK Jr. is an incredibly dangerous human being. His anti-science nonsense is going to get a lot of people killed. People are actively going to die because of what he is doing. It's not just the illegal actions of Donald Trump and Elon Musk that are getting people killed. It's all of the sycophants, all of the parts of their regime that are working in conjunction with them to amplify the harm that is being done, to exacerbate the amount of suffering and the number of lives that are lost. RFK Jr. is not making America healthy again. He is actively making us sicker. He is actively inducing suffering, and people are going to die as a result of his mismanagement of a huge amount of the federal government.